Hey folks, welcome to Getting Up to Date with Docsy, the Kubernetes Docs upgrade in progress. So a little bit about us. First off, my name is Rey Lejano. I work at Red Hat. I'm a Kubernetes maintainer, SIG Docs co-chair, also work in other areas of the project. Right now, currently in SIG security, helping to run the third-party security audit sub-project.
Hi everyone, I'm Natali Vlatko. My pronouns are she, her. I am a Director of Open Source Software Engineering at Cisco, Kubernetes maintainer as well, and I work a lot not only within SIG Docs, but I do a bit of work also sometimes with the release team. I'm also on the To-Do Group steering committee. The To-Do Group is a really great group of experts in the OSPO space, Open Source Program Office space, so come and chat to me if you're interested in any of that. And I also was the program chair, or one of the program chairs this year for the CNCF Maintainer Summit. It's where we get all of our different project maintainers from across the CNCF landscape to come and work together on cross-project initiatives.
Hi, I'm Divya Mohan, and I work at SUSE as a principal technology advocate. I'm also one of the maintainers for the Kubernetes documentation, over and above which I was one of the co-chairs for the very first KubeCon held in India. And another thing that I do in the open source / cloud native ecosystems is be a part of the steering committee for the Developer Relations Foundation. And we recognize that you do not see a fourth person next to us, although there are like 4 bubble heads there. That's Sayak. He was supposed to be here. Unfortunately, due to visa issues, could not make it. But a lot of this talk derives from the work that he and a lot of our folks in the SIG Docs community have been doing with respect to upgrading Docsy. And without further ado, I'll let Ray get to the rest of the presentation.
Yeah, just what we'll talk about today's roadmap as it stands. Things might change as goals or aspirations. So we'll talk about today's the current status or current state of the Kubernetes.io documentation and what our goals are. The agenda, we'll go over the upgrade project, why we're upgrading, how we're approaching it, the roadmap, and how you can get involved. So setting the stage here, docs, in my opinion, drive adoption of open source projects. It's always the first entry point where users go to start into a new open source project, where they learn concepts, where they learn about APIs, where they see examples, they see walkthroughs, and in my opinion as well, if you have bad documentation, users tend to walk away from that project. For me, one of my favorite part of being in the Docs community is seeing all the new features in Kubernetes. Since I did participate in the release team in the past, so one of my favorite things every 4 times a year or 3 times a year is to see what the new upcoming features are. So that's always a key task that our SIG does as well, along with the release team. And also, it's also important to have great docs so that typically with open source software, upstream does not provide support. You get support from a vendor, so you want to make sure that there's enough in the documentation where that folks can either support themselves or they could lead or take that and lead into troubleshooting or eventually go on to ask for a vendor. So a little bit so the backend for the Kubernetes.io, our tech stack is we start off with source control with GitHub, of course, and we have a CI/CD system called Prow, and we are hosted on Netlify 5. So it builds on every single pull request you make. If you make a pull request, it will actually build a preview, so you can actually preview what the whole website or what it'll look like for the pull request. And when it merges, it will actually redeploy as well, so it will rebuild the whole site every time a PR is merged. What we're here to talk about is Hugo and Docsy. Hugo is the static site generator, and Docsy is a theme for technical documentation that we are using. Lastly, we do use mermaid.js, which is what we use to create diagrams from Markdown. So why staying up to date matters, of course, is if you're on old technology that's 5 years old, it's bound to have security issues. So we wanted to keep up to date. We also, it also makes it hard if you want to keep up to date and upgrade our theme Docsy. Typically, it supports and it needs a specific version of Hugo as well. So we need to upgrade both hand in hand as well. Of course, the cool new features for new Docsy themes is cool, like dark theme, newer modern icons as well that we want that users tend to use, like myself. And so for those new features, we need to upgrade. Lastly, or one of the other items why we are upgrading is that it does run better. So if you want to be, so of course users, we always hear how the documentation side is running, and the better it actually runs, the better for the whole community. And also, we also like to have up-to-date tooling as well for our community as well. It just makes it easier for folks who want to make PRs into our repo. And so next is the upgrade initiative. We're going to update, our goal is to update to the latest version of Docsy and also update to the latest compatible version of Hugo as well. And also goal is to make it as simple as possible, so not as many customizations as well. So customizations, of course, it's a little bit harder to upgrade in the future. And like I mentioned before, we want to upgrade for security, newer features, maintainability, so it's easier to actually contribute, and also future-proofing as well.
All right, so we were not always in Docsy, and it might serve as a good reminder for everyone here to learn about what the backstory of Kubernetes documentation website looked like before we actually arrived at our current state. So early years, that is when probably Kubernetes was a brand new, shiny technology. It still is. Don't get me wrong, we have an entire conference, multiple entire conferences around it. But this is throwing back a decade when the entire Kubernetes documentation was built using Jekyll, although it allowed for faster development initially. It ended up becoming a limiting factor as well because the project itself grew from a very small, tiny project to what it is right now. So we obviously had to change our approach given the times, and that's when mid-2018 we migrated to Hugo. Now it's a more flexible static site generator as compared to Jekyll, with improvements in not just build times, but also with respect to the complex customizations that we have currently. If you've cared to explore the K website repository, all of those are made possible by the Hugo static site generator. And of course, if you have visited the Kubernetes documentation, you know that we maintain multiple versions, not multiple versions, multiple translated versions of it. So Hugo as a static site generator enables us to do that more easily compared to Jekyll. So that was our rationale when moving. And we adopted Docsy as a theme right about when I started contributing, to be very honest. So mid-2020 is when I started contributing. Unfortunately, I had no hand in this, so don't take that as the correlation. But in mid-2020, the Docsy theme was adopted by SIG Docs, and there were definite improvements in the user experience and interface that it brought in. Again, localization and versioning are very important to us because we have a global community. And we have a global community that also uses many previous versions. So those are very key important facets to us. And that's why we adopted the Docsy theme. And we've actually tried to keep up with the pace at which, the Docsy theme updates are regularly pushed out. But we've not been entirely successful, obviously, because open source is pretty much volunteer-driven, and it's difficult. Even with 20 people managing the whole thing and helping with approvals and reviews, it's definitely going to take a sort of a lag when we talk about keeping up with the status quo. So we obviously started to lag behind Hugo releases, and there were compatibility issues, security concerns, there were issues with the customization features, and that's why we've started redoing the work of upgrade and planning it out in a structured way. This details some of the work we've recently undertaken over the last 1 year. It's not even that it's complete, but this is a very recent effort that we've undertaken. And it's, again, like I mentioned at the very start, a piece of work that has largely been driven by volunteers like Sayak. And that's the work I will now hand off to Natali to actually present in terms of the approach that we've taken and what is our future roadmap. Because I guess that's the meaty, chunky version of the presentation that you're more interested in. So, yeah.
Thanks, Divya. So it was very funny when Ray was mentioning about how our general website and the Kubernetes docs work, because he and I were also this morning debugging Netlify, because sometimes it is not participating well with what we need to get some blogs up. So that was very fun on this conference internet. But want to talk a little bit about our approach now. Now, we have specifically looked at how we wanted to do this across SIG Docs, but across the Kubernetes project, some of these same kind of ways of approaching general feature work is definitely practice. So this is something that you can think about as a lot of different contributors and maintainers of Kubernetes are likely doing. So firstly, small PRs. We were looking specifically at the Docsy upgrade and looking at how we want to be initiating like certain things to be available first. Basically, what are the smallest things that we can kind of get squared away before we start actually fully upgrading, versioning, and so on. One layout or shortcut at a time. That's actually super important, again, as Divya mentioned, because we have a global community on the localization front. We don't want to break things across several languages. And so this was also really important to also take really small. We're cleaning up as much as we can. I would say that actually a lot of the review work that I was doing with Sayak was around the cleanup aspect as well, where making sure that things were rendering well, were actually working across several languages. And then also trying to think one version ahead. This is something where we were wondering, when we're opening up and making these small changes, what is it in the next version that we're actually looking forward to implementing first? That was really something that we used as a kind of little project management tool to kind of break down this work. And rebasing all the time, this is so important, especially because as we're doing a lot of this work, Kubernetes releases are still happening. We release 3 times a year in this project. We needed to make sure that we weren't breaking anything for actually functioning documentation to still be up there for our users and for our fellow maintainers. So we did a lot of working branch updates and a lot of rebasing just to make sure that each piece that we were working on still worked for the whole website. This is a slide that we don't expect you to read right now, but we wanted to put it in here as something for you to reference later, because Sayak in particular and a few of us in SIG Docs sat down and kind of mapped out this process of how we wanted to go about it. And I'm just going to quickly read out so you can possibly, if you can't possibly see, just the bits here. So first we did an audit of the current site and to see like what things do we need to basically update first. And then, and obviously the dependencies dependencies too. I say obviously, but sometimes if we don't say that out loud, people don't realize that's something really important. We compared to the latest Docsy versions, so we didn't just jump straight away to the latest and greatest. This was something that we really had to assess of what could actually be doable and achievable sooner rather than later, and go bit by bit, version by version. We did want to try and skip ahead one or two, of course, because we were pretty behind, but really evaluating a couple versions at a time was key. Incrementally updating the templates and layouts, as we mentioned, incrementally sometimes meaning one shortcode at a time or several, and again, constantly rechecking and cleaning up our work. We would test the changes and gather feedback too. And this is actually also was really important on our contributor site changes that we would also do. Folks may not know, but on top of the Kubernetes documentation that we also have a Kubernetes contributors site, which we in the maintainer community use often in terms of basically speaking to one another. And they needed upgrading as well. Their version was much older than ours. So we decided to team up with the special interest group for contributor experience, who specifically owns that site, and work together with them on the upgrades as well. And so this really was this joint effort. And then finally updating the dependency version. This is something that came at the end once we were testing all our changes. This is something that happened right at the end of that process. And where do we stand now? How is our upgrade looking, and what is coming? So the initial audit has happened, and we've also compared the current and latest Docsy versions. Again, this has happened across our SIG and also the contributor experience SIG, who owns the Kubernetes contributor site as well, and the key areas of needing updates. This is also something that we've chatted with and gotten feedback from across the localization areas too, because we've got some localization folks who, really wanting like a certain feature in the newer Docsy upgrade versus another, and we had to kind of prioritize those needs as well. Our progress is incremental. It is small. I reviewed a PR the other day that was only a couple line change, but it was a new shortcode coming in, and we want to make sure that these updates stay incremental to make sure our docs aren't broken, especially because we are constantly live and releasing for Kubernetes. The testing is underway and feedback collection, and again, just emphasizing once again the small focused PRs that we're doing. And now we're going into the road ahead for what's going on with the rest of the update. 0.6.0 is done, and 0.7.0 is in progress. Our plan is for 0.12 or 1.2, which is a significant jump between 7 to 12, but we've made the audit to see that is very likely possible for us. Again, making sure that we are continuing this upgrade at the pace that we're doing and the consistency that we are, and Sayak in particular has been super, super amazing with that. We in the SIG Docs folks, in terms of co-chairs and tech leads, have been trying to make sure that we're available to review as much as possible so that consistency is up, so we're really prioritizing this work. And just looking at the idea of making the site more vanilla, as Ray mentioned, we want to make sure there's as little customizations as possible. And part of that is to also make sure that general folks in front-end and web dev, which is originally the area that I come from in my tech background, can actually come in and also contribute work, because it is not this wildly interesting customized site that they can't actually debug or understand. So definitely making the site as simply vanilla as possible is something that we're trying to do. And now I'll hand over to Divya, who's going to wrangle you into contributing for us.
So this is going to be the last couple of slides. So if y'all have any questions, y'all need to go to the mic that's there in the center to ask, or else you can catch us in the hallway track as well. But essentially, joining us is not as complicated a procedure as joining a company. You just really have to engage with us on the documentation website. So there is a tab on the left side of the documentation website where you feel if you have any issues or specific amendments to make, you can just file an issue. That is an option. That's the first way you can engage with us. But that is also okay if you do not really want to take that step. You can reach out to us on our documentation Slack channel, which is hashtag SIG Docs on the Kubernetes Slack. which is slack.kates.io. Now, when you talk about the specific efforts that we are putting into the upgradation process, all of it is tracked via GitHub, as Ray mentioned before. So there are various areas where we are looking for help. One is to obviously review the upgrade PRs that are coming in. Informal reviews also help. It doesn't necessarily need to be myself, Ray, or Natali, or the other co-chairs or approvers. Y'all can also, as people who are involved in web development, leave an informal review, and that counts. That totally counts as a contribution. And I would like to pause here and talk about testing the upgraded documentation website. The reason for this is we recently, not recently in the sense like 1 month back, but quite recently made a change to our search. And it broke a lot of things. And nobody came and told us about it, but complained about it on Reddit. And it took a lot of people flagging it up to us and bubbling it up to us from the Reddit forum that this was actually an issue. Now, if somebody who had noticed the issue came up to us and actually told us that this was an issue, right on the GitHub issues, there is an absolute forum there to file an issue and say that the website is not working, as website search is not working as expected. We would look at it and fix, but we were under the assumption that, hey, this works. So we were under the false assumption for a very long time. And of course, when we were notified of it, we began work to fix it, and I believe it's fixed now. And that's the point that I want to make about testing, because as maintainers, we have a very limited scope of testing the changes. It might work on our machine, but as everybody in IT knows, it necessarily doesn't translating it to working on your machine. So we need as many people to test out the changes as we can from different regions, because we understand that there are firewalls and network restrictions across the globe that can prevent the functionalities from working in a specific manner. So testing is also an absolute necessity when it comes to such changes, and we're always looking out for people to help us in that regard. But of course, if you move from the front end side, please, submit PRs, because we're always on the lookout for people who can help us with web development. Submitting feedback, again, throwing back to the whole process of letting us know if it works, and telling us in particular that it works on the forum that you're supposed to say it, and not complaining to the ether of the internet, will actually make a difference. So if you submit feedback in the appropriate forum, it will get looked at. It might take time, but it will get looked at, let me assure you. And towards the helping review and merge pull requests, like I said in my very first statement, informal reviews by anyone in this room and anyone really in KubeCon or watching this recording is helpful, because as a motley crew of people approving and reviewing PRs, we oftentimes do not get the bandwidth. There are around 300 plus PRs on a weekly basis that come through, which around 20 people have to actually review. And there's one PR wrangler that's supposed to attend to it every week. This is a lot of PRs. So if there is any help that comes with informal reviewing, we are more than happy for sharing our workload with y'all. It's not like we keep this in a locked up room and assign the authority to only us three or the other approvers and reviewers. Lastly, we also meet up during KubeCons, but also in meetings that are held on a fortnightly basis. And I might be wrong with my time zone changes, but I do believe it's at 12 a.m. my time, and that translates to around 9 a.m., 10 a.m. PT?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, so you can join those discussions, and there we also announce the different initiatives that we are focusing on at the current moment in time. And really, to sum it all up, no contribution is too small or too big, really. It's about starting, and I won't say things like just do it, because Nike hasn't paid me. But it really does help if people from the community who use the docs actually submit feedback or contribute in a way that helps them also use the docs better. Because at the end of the day, the docs are for consumers and the docs are for all of us. So it's technically our responsibility to keep it working. But we always welcome a pair of extra hands. So with that, I think we have 5 minutes remaining. So if you have any questions, please walk to the second mic here and ask away. We're here till the end of 5 minutes. And this basically is all the stuff that I spoke about. Where you can find us, what are the meetings. If you're from APAC like me and have jet lag, there is also a meeting for you. Do not worry, you're not excluded. We made sure for that as well. We also have new contributor meet and greet sessions so that you don't feel like a complete alien on the very first day that you're starting to contribute. So if that's something that you'd like to contribute to, that's also another avenue. And Sayoko is actually here from the localization sub-project team. So if you're interested in translations, best person to talk to. And for all the invites and all the other information that we broadcast on a daily basis, not daily basis really, because nobody has time to read emails, on a routine basis, please join the mailing list as well. With that, yeah, I will stop rambling and let you all ask questions if you have any.
I also want to quickly mention with Sayoko here, there was a bit of a mistake in this morning's keynote, but he was actually also awarded one of the top documentarians here this year for the CNCF. So I want to point you out, Sayoko, because you deserve that recognition. You're amazing.
Yeah.
If folks don't have questions, that's fine. We can wrap up a bit early, but please, if you see us on the show floor, although I will say Divya is running away to go home and rest, but if you see Ray and myself or want to reach out to Divya on Slack to ask us some questions, also please feel free. We're around.
Sorry, I did have one question.
Perfect.
Is this for, so SIG Docs, is it only for Kubernetes like core, or is it for all graduated projects?
Great question. It's just for the Kubernetes projects, and also it's related projects that you'll find in the Kubernetes SIGs repository too. We create all of the policy around all docs for Kubernetes generally, and also all the localizations too. But we do work with the CNCF to help push best practices across other projects as well. And the CNCF does have their own, I believe Nate, specifically, Nate from the CNCF is actually head of documentation there. And he specifically works across all projects to do office hours to help them get their documentation up to best practices. But I can give you, given that this Kubernetes did come from a small company that you might have heard of called Google so many years ago, we did base a lot of our best practices on Google best practices around docs as well. So if you're familiar with those, you'll be familiar with ours.
Yeah. Any other questions? If not, we can give you like 2 minutes back of your time and y'all can go have coffee. Yeah, sure.
Yes. So dark mode doesn't go live until the upgrade to Docs. Docs is 0.12, right? Yeah.
That's a goal.
Okay. Timelines, tentative. Do you have any tentative timelines?
So we're currently in progress to upgrade to 0.7 because Docsy 0.7, but Docsy 0.7 has a lot of breaking changes, so that's going to take some time. So once we get over that little speed bump, we should be able to have a smoother ride to 0.12.
Yeah, one of the reasons that we are being so careful is, again, because this is all live also while Kubernetes continues releasing 3 times a year, and our docs are really important to be working as we're pushing out a release, not only on the blog side, but also on generally updating things. I know we had a lot of feedback when certain things don't make it into the docs on time, when new features go GA or something like this, so we're being very careful this time.
And additionally, there's one more thing. Most of the folks here who have attempted a CKA, CKAD, whatever exam that CNCF has the docs are instrumental there as well. So we can't really, mess around with the docs as often as we'd like to. So we have to ensure that they're live at every point in time. So that's why we're being extremely careful going from version to version without any breaking changes whatsoever.
Yeah, a cool fact about that actually, we were recently looking at do we want to implement AI in our docs to have a bot that helps you find things quicker, but given that our docs are used as part of a lot of the examinations, it would actually kind of be cheating if we allowed that, so we don't have that implemented on our docs. Unfortunately, you may find this with other projects, but for the Kubernetes official documentation, there's no fun chatbots that you can ask a question of to find something very quickly, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, then I think we are on time. I'm sorry, person in the Great Asian. Okay.
Or you go behind you, whatever you like.
So I was just kind of curious because you mentioned, I mean, so there's like a lot of talk about like the critical functionality and like testing and all of that. I was curious, do you have like any automated testing in place for the doc site?
The only testing we have, testing in terms of like the build will fail. We do have tests for like builds, so we do have that. That is, so making sure that the site builds okay, then it will deploy. Like we should be able, we should also change the base image because it's going to be out of support soon as well. So we need to do that by the end of the year for all of our doc site, not just Kubernetes.io, but like things like cluster API docs or no feature discovery docs, Minikube docs. We have to do all that as well.
Yeah, and we use the deploy previews from Netlify from the build to also look at and test changes there too. That's very important. So if the deploy fails, then we actually also have a Netlify problem.
Gotcha.
So we have that as well, but also on the upgrade that you mentioned, we've done a couple upgrades so far. That bad or breaking, we are still just being as careful as possible.
Yeah. Are there any like end-to-end tests against those like builds, like as changes are made?
End-to-end tests that we've put together, no.
Okay.
Could be. That could be a fun place to contribute to. But at the moment, no.
Okay, cool. Just curious.
Thanks for your question. And thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you.